It's Wednesday, November 12th. I'm Adam Walsh, and this is The Signal. Today on the show, Alan Doyle is here. We're going to hang out for the hour, talk about his new book, The Smiling Land, All Around the Circle in Mind, Newfoundland and Labrador, an insider's guide to the province, and if you want to call in and talk about your own favorite travel story for the province, get in touch. So how many times has your picture been taken in Kitty Vitty?
Probably too many. Arguably too many. I may have overused that landscape. I did the first 4 or 5 for books and stuff in Petty Harbour, and now this one is in Kitty Vitty.
I mean, it'll be, like those when you're a kid, you used to draw like the stick figures and having them run. I mean, we could have you over the years, as time goes on, and it's a great little comparison.
They're all, it's like before and after pictures, and they're almost all after.
How are you?
Excellent. Great to be home. Thanks for having me on. I was away for more than I normally am in the last 6 months because I was doing the Telltale Harbour musical in Charlottetown most of the summer. I got home for a few days in September, and then we did it for 2 months in Toronto. So I've been, normally I'm away often, but not for long periods of time, 2 or 3 weeks at a time. But this one, I've been away basically, with the exception of about 10 days, I've been away for about 6 months. So It's nice to be home.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is for me, yeah.
How was the, I've heard responses, but like through you, the response to Telltale Harbour.
Massive. It was sold out every night for the last 4 weeks of the 6-week run we did in Toronto. It's clean. And they loved it, and I'm so glad because that whole thing takes so long to put together, and it's such a difficult art form to get right, and it's like, but it was great fun. I must say, it was for an old dog. It was nice to have a new trick, and a new experience and that whole story goes on. We may be back in Toronto again, and then there's a couple other theaters around the country and in the U.S. looking at it. So, fingers crossed.
It's a pretty good buy.
Yeah,
not too bad. So you're here talking to me now. How when it comes to like a book tour, right? The Smiling Land, and okay, folks. By the way, we're giving away. I'll ask you to sign it maybe before you go.
Yeah, sure.
I got a pen here somewhere. Before you go, I'll get you to do that. But like today, we'll open the phone lines, and we're gonna dig into just talking about travel around Newfoundland and Labrador, and maybe some, it might spill out to other spots. But I mean, this is the focus. But when it comes to a book tour, you talk to a lot of people.
I do. It's great fun. I mean, it's you put out a book, and luckily, the good folks at Penguin Random House Canada. Get behind it big time, which is excellent. So I already did 3 or 4 days in Ontario before I came home for a little bit. And then this evening I fly to Montreal, do an event there, and then I go to Winnipeg, Vancouver, Victoria, Calgary, and then I come home again for a little bit. Then I go back and do Toronto, Hamilton, Ottawa, Halifax. And so it's like it's an odd thing for a musician because you're doing all this stuff, and it's a lot of early mornings going on television and stuff, and then or the radio or whatever. But then in the evening there's probably an event, but the event is like starts at 6:30 or 7, and it's over by 9, and you end up back at a hotel by yourself at 9:30 at night. And it's always been a weird thing for me, coming from the band world of like 9:30 is when I usually leave a hotel room.
And to get ready
to go to work. And so it's kind of like an upside down day for a fellow like me, but it's, I'm happy to do it, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to kind of still be in the game, where like people are interested in whatever you're putting out. So whether it's a musical or a record or a book or whatever. So I'm grateful.
Yeah. But like big time still in the game. Like this is not, there's a lot, and it's all different too. Like I was reading through this last night. So I got home. I was outside yesterday. It was kind of cold. So I went home, had a little blanket on. There was the smell of stew cooking from the kitchen.
Very nice.
And this was digging into this last night. It's a lovely read, and it made me want to visit places that I have not visited yet in the province. Yeah, I mean,
the whole point of the book, The Smiling Land, is really a journey around Newfoundland and Labrador that I did mostly with my wife and son.
Yeah.
And it was really about writing a love letter to my own province, and in the spirit of like some of my favorite books, like because I love traveling and I love reading. Like Bill Bryson is one of my favorite
so good
novelists or writers, and I love how he takes people along, and I thought that I might be able to do something, in that kind of inspired by that kind of writing, and I thought Newfoundland is a perfect spot for it because. It's vast and different and weird and awesome, and so I really wanted, and of course, just for our own family, my wife Joanne and I decided that when he was like late in his 17th year and all through his 18th year, we'd take our son Henry on this trip because he'll be 19 or 20 soon, and he'll never come with us again.
Yeah.
So we got in the car and in the minivan, and we drove all over Newfoundland and Labrador, and really one of the things I wanted to do was sort of learn what the new Newfoundland was, if you will, because you know I grew up in Petty Harbour until the mid '80s, and you know I came out here to town going to university, and of course I grew up in the old Newfoundland, right, where was still the fishing. Everybody was inshore fishermen, small boats and fish plants on the go for 6 months a year, 24 hours a day, you know, and that kind of stuff. And I wondered, like, well, is that still the same? You know, like with the cod moratorium hit when I was, you know, when Great Big Sea was starting, really, you know, in the early 1990s. And I just wondered, well, if all these towns, you know, or a bunch of them were brought up on the inshore fishery, and that has changed radically, we'll have those places changed. And, you know, I'm pretty quick when I'm on the mainland or anywhere around the world to talk about how awesome Newfoundland is, but maybe I should go look and see what it's actually what's going on, you know.
Get an update on things before I go out and talk.
And what would I discover, and what would I rediscover, and what would be fun, and what would be and use that kind of journey as a little platform to pass on, you know, comment or observation about many of the weird and wonderful things about this place that makes it, you know, different and worth coming to.
So I've lived away a couple times, and I've never been one of the Newfoundlanders who like pines for home. But at the same time, if you go to like, I realized, I think preparing for this with you today, I've got a group chat text thread with some folks who I worked with in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And I go back, you look at my messages, like, here's a picture of an iceberg. Here's an update on the weather in Newfoundland. It's like all, and you're like, oh, this is someone who's awfully proud of where he lives. And this is what I get from you, right? Like the pride of it. What's it like when you're talking to folks up along about here? And because there's some folks don't know, and others know a bit. Like, how do you have that conversation there?
It's changed a lot over the years, actually. Like even when Great Big Sea started and we started traveling in the early 90s, you know, I feel like Newfoundland was still introducing itself to the country, right? And whereas now I feel like it's the complete opposite. It's like we went from being the unknown to the cool kid, you know, and people are dying to come here, and they want to hear more and more about it, and they hear about the food, and they hear about the stuff that, you know, we would have never thought when I was 25, you know, to tell people about, you know, like icebergs and whales. Yeah. Well, now, of course, that's the big deal, you know, and so like it's an interesting thing to be a representative, an ambassador, a known person from here, right? Because there's not that many of us, you know, just by nature of our population. And so even in early days with the guys, we became unofficial ambassadors of the province. We never asked for that, you know, we never went looking for it, but once it was sort of thrust upon us, we took it seriously, you know, and because we, for better or for worse, you know, kind of realized that, you know, we or I might be the first thing that anybody ever heard about Newfoundland and Labrador. Yeah. Might be me, you know, and so, you know, I always want to make sure I'm at least reporting it honestly and in a favorable light if possible.
How do you, like, over the years, I know that some folks will have maybe a caricature in mind of, you know, especially like for the crowd that came up before you in the industry for entertainment here, some of the pushback against Newfie and the caricature. Yeah. But you guys, like, because there's a fine line there, and I mean, Great Big Sea did such a great job with it, and then you've continued on, like, to not go into that or not feel pressure around it, and you've just been yourself. Like, what are your thoughts on just what some people might expect compared to the reality that you're putting out there?
Again, I feel like it's swung full circle. Yeah. Like I just spent 6 or 8 weeks in Toronto doing Telltale Harbour. And one of the things I did was I spent a lot of time walking around Toronto, you know, because I had to be by myself a lot because I had to watch my voice because I was doing 8 shows a week and I had to, you know, that kind of like discipline that I'm not used to be honest with you. Yeah. But I traveled around Toronto and I started finding stuff that I really liked. Yeah. You know, like walking through the ravines, walking on the beach, and all this. And I started doing Toronto appreciation posts on my Instagram. And people from Toronto were chuffed. Like they were blushing that like somebody from Newfoundland might come there and see nice stuff.
See, that's
wild.
Like
that is a wild flip in one man's lifetime. Like if someone had told me in 1995 that, you know, that you know the general population of Toronto would be delighted that a Newfoundlander came and liked it, And so it is. Yeah, you're right. And with regards to like having a like the whole Newfie joke book thing, I mean, we were always sort of like very honestly confused by that and against it, And it's like, again, like I always tell the same story about it. Like I grew up in Petty Harbour, this place that for 6 months a year never slept.
Yeah,
it never went to bed. There was always several dozen people working at something all the time, these joke books from the 70s or whatever about like lazy, people.
Yeah,
and I go like, who are these joke books about? Like, what are they like? They didn't represent anything I'd ever seen. So not only it wasn't about necessarily like not enjoying them or whatever, it just didn't seem right. It didn't seem accurate, And so, but part of this Smiling Land book is really to go, well, if, what's it like today? Like, what's it like if the Petty Harbour, for example, of my childhood was one thing. Well, what is it now? What are the Petty Harbours of Newfoundland and Labrador doing now? And just to go to, like, in some cases, go back to places that I've been lots, like down to Southern Shore, for example, and then to go places I'd never been. Like I'd never been to the southern tip of Labrador. I've never been. I've never driven up until this book. I'd never driven up the Northern Peninsula. I'd never driven north of Cowhead, and I'd never driven down to Rose Blanche on the south coast, and I never, there was so much of it that I'd never done before, and really just to create one possible itinerary if somebody wanted to spend a month kicking around Newfoundland.
Yeah.
This is a possible itinerary. I don't go everywhere. I don't talk about all the places, but I think there's 15 or 16 chapters in the book.
Battle Harbour.
Yeah.
Man, your description of Battle Harbour was so great. Like, because you do this European bit of a comparison, and then just to talk about going in there and what has been preserved and how they preserved it. Like,
incredible.
Tell us about that experience.
So first of all, Battle Harbour is probably the furthest I went, right? And people have been asking me since I put this book out, what I found surprising about Newfoundland and Labrador, and I'm embarrassed to say the first thing, and I'm especially embarrassed to say it at home. Even I wasn't quite aware of how big the place is.
Yeah.
It is enormous, right? And I don't think we have a full understanding, or we try to convince ourselves that it's not that big with the drive from St. John's to Deer Lake or something or whatever.
You'd compare it to Germany, right? So that with the population.
It is enormous.
Yeah.
Like we left.
Not just the island.
Oh my God. We left St. John's and we got in the minivan, me and Joanne and Henry. The van drove over to the west coast to Grossmorn, had a night there. We turned right, went up, had a few nights in the Snatney area, went to L'Anse Meadows and all that stuff. Got on the ferry, went across to the southern part of Quebec, by the way. It doesn't land in Labrador. That's news to me as well. And the clock goes back 90 minutes when you land for about 11 feet. And then when you walk back past 11 feet, it changes 90 minutes again. And we drove across the Labrador Highway. We drove across the Southern Labrador Highway, which might be the most impossible 100 kilometers of road I've ever seen in my life. Now, I haven't done everything in the world, but I've driven a lot more than most people do, just by the nature of my gig. And I'm telling you, that is one of the most impossible drives you will ever have.
Why?
Because you go for 80 or 90 kilometers between, where the ferry lands before you get to, say, Red Bay or whatever in the southern part of Labrador. And you pass a few communities by Primrose and a few of them. But there's 70 or 80 kilometers where there's nothing. And I mean not a tree, not a pole, not a shed. And the only other cars that pass you every 20 minutes or so is like some Mad Max Jeep or somebody with a motorcycle with the survival bags on where they're puttering along in their Honda Odyssey. But all this to say is when we finally got to Mary's Harbour, I guess, and we got on the ferry, a boat to go out to Battle Harbour. I mean, I think we traveled, I don't know, we're knocking 2,000 kilometers.
You should have been through multiple countries. Right?
Oh, I mean, we would have crossed Europe twice. Yeah. And then you get on a boat and you go, X number of kilometers out into the Labrador Sea, to arrive at this place that looks like it was built a week and a half ago. You know, like, and it's just completely preserved. This fishing station that I sort of called the greatest act of rural preservation I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like this is like these are not the buildings and the fishing stations and the houses and the church and the storage facility and the all the stuff that's on the wharves. Like, they're not replicas of what used to be there. They're the things that used to be there. Mm-hmm. And they're just kept. And it's like, it's an incredible thing to see out literally in the middle of nothing.
Yeah.
Like, but of course, geographically, it made perfect sense. And yeah, but I mean, that whole, the distance of that is remarkable and notable. And it, you know, I've been saying it's a territory of a province, you know, when you include all of it. It's like, it's incredible.
How do you think this informs kind of like who we are as Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, like with the distance, like, because there's through lines for all of us in this province from culture and what we have. But at the same time, we can be very, very far apart as well. Like, what do you think that, like, the tie-in is there for some of us? Or what did you learn from kind of speaking to folks about either what's the same or even some of the differences as you went to all these places?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I think I've learned about it is that we, like I said, we're even ourselves, we talk ourselves out of how far it is and how hard it is. It's because one of the things that the defining things about us as a people, I think, is that we're used to hard stuff.
Yeah,
we're just used to it. And people will talk about hard times and like tragedy and how good we respond in those things, and thank God we do, of course. But even but one step before that is just like, I don't think we have any expectation that the day will be easy, you know, and that's unusual. Lots of people expect the day to go as planned, right? Yeah. And for the spring to be a certain kind of way, and the winter to be a certain kind of way, and the summer, and we don't.
No,
you know, I think that's true. We go like, well, sure, whatever the day needs done, that's what we'll do, you know, and I think one of the great things about our province is that we've learned to smile and have a great time when times are hard, and because there often are. Yeah. And so no one, and my God, when they're good, then we're gone off the charts all the time. But it's, I love that sort of, and it's part resilience, I suppose, but it's also just like hard work and like, you know, yeah, and dogged determination, you know, and I'm convinced that's why we punch above our weight in so many things that have nothing to do with the geography or the living in, you know, it's why we're disproportionately represented on the national broadcaster at the CBC, for example, you know, or whatever, and it's just, you know, we do very well with hard tasks.
Yeah. You're listening to The Signal. I'm Adam Walsh. Alan Doyle is here talking about the smiling land all around the circle in my Newfoundland and Labrador. So we're digging into the province and spots to visit and travel and thoughts around it. So if you want to join the discussion, if you've got a travel bit you want to talk to us about, if you just want to ask Alan a question, to say hi, the lines are open, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255, thesignal@cbc.ca. Text us 709-327-8206. And I will say, you know, I can talk to Alan for like hours. If you do want a copy of the book, we'll put in a draw at the end of the show. Email thesignal@cbc.ca because, like I said, I was reading it last night, and it is really good. What are your favorite places? Like the places, like buildings or spots that you've been to in this province that stand out for you?
I like standing by the cannon in St. John's, you know, down in the Battery.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite spots. I was there before I came here. I usually walk. I live right in the middle of downtown, and even that's my usual coffee walk. Is I walk out the Battery to where the cannon is and just have a look around. I find it centers me very good. And if people say, well, if I was going to fly into Newfoundland and do one thing, what would I do? I'd walk around Signal Hill. That's what I would do. Yeah. Easily.
Oh, it's great.
It's one of the best walks you can do in a city on earth. Yeah. And it might be the best one. You know, so I love that. You know, I always love standing, you know, on the wharf in Woody Point or Norris Point in Grossmore. It's just like absolutely spectacular. You know, we just before we came on air, it's an odd one, I know. There's something really cool about standing up in the terminal at Gander Airport. It's just like
yes,
it feels like you're in a movie set or something, and
it's one of my favorite spaces.
It's one of the most unusually, like, sort of, I don't want to say haunted, but like inhabited places, like, you know, and like it feels like so much has gone on there, like, you know, like, and I'm charmed by that too, you know, and like, you know, it's I found so many, I mean, so many places on the Bonavista Peninsula that are, you know, that are must do's if you're coming to Newfoundland and Labrador. You know, like I tell everybody, it's like, you know, I think the best city walk you can do in the world is the North Head Trail around Seal Hill, and I think if you're going in the woods, you got to go to Skirwing Trail in Port Rexton, and like you could do that's. I'll put those up there, those walks up there with anything in British Columbia or anything around, and you know, I think I talk about it in the book about a time when I had a gig in on the coast of Norway, and you know, I flew into Bergen, and the flights were late, and so I ended up getting out to this gig in a helicopter.
The helicopter one, yeah.
And I remember flying over the fjords in a helicopter in Norway, and being just blown away by how beautiful they are. I mean, it's just incredibly vast and wonderful, and I remember turning to the pilot and going like, "This is almost as cool as the Western Brook Pond in Grossmore." It's almost.
Yeah. He's like, what?
He's like, what?
Like, I mean,
Yeah,
Western
so
Brook Pond is gorgeous.
But I do, one of the things I think I always tell people about traveling around Newfoundland and Labrador too is, for God's sake, don't go into a town and not talk to somebody.
Yeah.
If you can, I mean, you know, like, and those are the experiences that people talk about the most. I think, you know, people that go to Fogo and they, you know, and they end up down in Foley's Shed or something, or, you know, they go, you know, they go down Katie Vitti and they're talking to Linda or whomever, like these great hosts of our province, you know, like who really end up becoming the defining part of someone's trip or whatever, you know, and like
totally. I took a buddy of mine who's Scottish into Linda's, and you know, like we'll still talk about it, right? You know,
yeah.
So you're like, there you go.
Yeah, it's fabulous, and that's like you can't buy that stuff, right? Then it's like I mean, again, like the people that make these places unique and their own are really the biggest reason to come to Newfoundland and Labrador.
Here's a question from a caller just phoned in and left a question. Where hasn't he been that he would like to go in Newfoundland and Labrador? That's from Sean. Thanks for the question.
I've never really been anywhere on the coast of Labrador other than Battle Harbor. Like I've never gone into Goose Bay and gone north.
Yeah.
I've never gone up to the Torngats, for example. I'd love to do that. I would love, you know. I've gone to a couple of places on the south coast. I was on an Adventure Canada boat once, and I went into Franceway, and this little, I did the road as far as you can go on the road. You know,
yeah.
I always say like I went to Port aux Basques and turned left, if you can imagine that, and you go around the corner down to Rose Blanche and all that stuff, and it was awesome. But I haven't been to like, you know, I haven't really been into Grey River or a bunch of the rest of the south coast of Newfoundland. I'd love to do that. I'd actually love to do the walk. You know, I'd love to walk the railway trail. I know I have a couple of friends who've done it, and I can't do it in 2026, but I'm thinking about doing it in 2027. Just go over, I don't know, wherever we would start somewhere. Where would you start? I guess you'd start in somewhere between in the Codroy Valley or whatever. You get on one of those woods and just come east, definitely. You know, and just walk. I'd love to do that. And yeah, I mean, there's so many places yet, you know, that I haven't done. I haven't really done much of the exploring the rivers. Like, you know, like I know a lot of people in, say, the Bishop's Falls or Grand Falls area that have like cabins or whatever that are up and down the river. I haven't really done that, you know, and apparently it's amazing to do that zone. And yeah, I mean, it's vast, it's big.
You mentioned, like, I think chanterelles a couple times in the book. Food-wise, like, how has that experience changed from back when you were starting to what, like, to the evolution of food for this province now? Because, like, and you mentioned, too, like, there's, like, baked rolls. I mean, there's like, you seem to like food, is what I'm trying to say. So
it's one of the greatest privileges of my life is to travel, right? When I was 15 years old, I wanted to play in a band and I wanted to travel. You know, I grew up in Petty Harbour. We didn't have a car. It was hard to get out of it. And I wanted to see what the rest of the world was like. You know, and I also wanted to be in a band. And so far, you know, I'm 56, and that's still what I want to do for a living, is play in a band. And so food, of course, is a big part of that. And like we were chatting just before we came on air about the fact that I've never been anywhere in Asia, and I know that you have a vast experience and a big, and I'd love to. My God, the food must be a big part of it. Yeah, and I mean, walking around is mostly what you do, and then you still got to eat 2 or 3 times a day. So that's why it's cool to have these, these sort of culinary experiences as well, of course. And when I think when I was a teenager going around in Newfoundland and Labrador, we had all the homemade food you could get then. But now, of course, I mean, you can get espresso coffee, in Clarenville. Then it's excellent, And that was one of the points of the book there I make about getting a townie coffee. I called it getting a townie coffee in Port au Choix.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe I could. I was like, "What are you serious?" And it was just like, "Yeah, of course."
It was like jumping bean or whatever on
Yeah.
the side. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you go
It
up
was
and you're like,
amazing.
hey,
I
do you
was
have
just
it?
like,
She's
wow.
like, yes.
What a townie error. Those kind of discoveries are great, and they're great, and you appreciate it a little bit more. And then, of course, places like Trinity and beyond, like have extensive and gross moor. I mean, you can get 5-star anything, So it's, I love the and I love the found things, if I could call it that. The fact that people still love to go, to Newfoundland in the into the summer or in the first of the fall and pick berries, and because we don't have, compared to Charlottetown. Like I was in Charlottetown a lot this last 2 summers, not this summer in 2022 doing Telltale Harbor, and to live in Prince Edward Island, right, for the summer. It's like living in the God's harvest banquet or something. It's like the first time I went there, I said to my father, I said, you pick up a handful of sand and walk down to the store, and there's a potato in your hand before you get to buy a bottle of Coke. Like it's bonkers. It's bonkers. But so we don't. If Newfoundland and Labrador is not an incredibly fertile place in that regard, the things we have are standouts. Like berries from here are amazing, and I love to tell people about the various high-end chefs from our province that have learned to make global food out of very local things. That's an awesome thing.
So here's the big question. What's your favorite type of jam then? So for me, it's partridge berry. What's yours?
My favorite local jam would be partridge berry jam.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm trying to remember the name of the berry. Now, what was that called?
Was it the smashberry one?
Smashberry, whatever they call it, over in the...
I didn't know about those until I was reading it last night.
It's in Port au Choix.
Yeah.
And I was just like, and I said, never heard of it. I guess it doesn't grow on this side of the island or whatever. And of course, bake apples are wildly popular around everywhere, and I can go a bake apple jam on a slice of toast any day. But I love, growing up in Petty Harbour, I mean, my favorite thing was blueberries. Just the blueberries out there are fantastic.
And the taste is just so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I find having done the compare and contrast, because you get the ones from I don't know if it's Chile or whatever the grocery store, but then summertime here, oh my God, the flavor that they pack.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's fabulous.
And then I find it interesting. You walk around Kitty Vitty and there's a little blueberry. I almost it's almost like a little sample bar or whatever. It's summertime.
Candy store.
And this and you don't. I don't know. You don't necessarily see that in the tourism commercials, but it's just those little tiny bits of things that we have here, which are just like these pleasant surprises that you can run into.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said it that way. That's a great way to say it, because, if you spend a lot of time in Prince Edward Island or some of the more sort of fertile places, I suppose, or bountiful places, if you will, they don't get that kind of seasonal delight like we do. I always say, when the sun shines in California, who cares?
Yeah.
When the sun shines in a cold and foggy place, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And so that thing of a summer or a fall day or whatever in Newfoundland and Labrador where it's not windy in Cape Spear or whatever.
You're right. You're like, how is this possible?
treat.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I love that, and maybe that's part of the charm of the place, is that we don't, again, not only that we don't expect it to be good or easy, but we're really, really appreciative of when a blueberry finally shows up, and
sometimes it feels like it's impossible.
It seems
You're
impossible.
This is not going to happen,
Yeah.
and then it does, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, magic.
Yeah, I love that.
Here's another note. So, folks, talking to Alan Doyle here about his new book, The Smiling Land, All Around the Circle in my Newfoundland and Labrador. And we're just having a freewheeling chat of wherever. I've got some notes here, but also if you, we've got a couple of emails and texts. So the signal at cbc.ca. Just by doing that, you get to go into the draw for the book that we will mail you. And if you want to give us a shout, the lines are open, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. Here's an email. I was at the Q show Saturday night, and I traveled the island in Labrador for work. Thoroughly enjoying this interview today. Truly proud to see many of the amazing parts of Newfoundland and Labrador. Alan is speaking of being an ambassador for amazing places. Truly a privilege. And that's cheers, Kimberly Davis.
Thanks, Kimberly. That's lovely. Yeah, we had a great fun with on the Q.
Yeah, I saw the reels of that. It looked great.
Oh my God, it was fabulous, and it was so many people. There was a great show for the national audience, and it's like, again, that's another part of Newfoundland and Labrador, especially in the entertainment part of it, that we all kind of support each other's projects, and I think that's such a cool. Like when Telltale Harbor opened for the first time, I mean, all the people I think who were on Q were also at my theater opening, and then
Yeah.
and we all show up for each other, and I think that's a lovely thing, and it doesn't happen everywhere,
No.
It doesn't happen everywhere, and it's all part of what makes this place special.
Yeah. And it's one of those, I mean, you could think it's easy in life for people to have egos and stuff, but like I know, just as an outsider of that, whenever we have these things, I notice, and you're looking like, yeah, Dubai's all, everyone's getting, and it's just really nice.
It is.
Yeah, and it just shows again, like from some of the character of folks that are kind of shining through.
But like as per Kimberly's note there or whatever, it's like it's such a privilege to have reached a place, sort of in my life or whatever, where if I speak about Newfoundland and Labrador, people will probably listen, or a publisher will actually publish a book about what I think, about different spots in Newfoundland and Labrador. And that's a great privilege, and I'm super grateful for it. And, for me, like the home run, I say, the home run for me is that if people read the book and like it and become interested, in our province. But the grand slam is if people read it and want to come behind me, and go to the various places and other places that I haven't mentioned.
Yeah. Which makes me think, I mean, the book starts with Fogo.
Yeah. Starts with farewell.
Yeah, right? It's so great. What, so you talk about Fogo, JBA, right? Joe Bat's arm, and Zeta Cobb comes up too, right? So when we think about just talk to me a bit about just your thoughts around what's happened because when we talk about the update, like we started the conversation, we talk about an update on the province.
Yeah.
I think Fogo's a great spot to look at the update.
One of the reasons I wanted to start the book in Fogo was because one of the questions I wanted to answer, and this is what's the new Newfoundland, if you will. What's our new, what if we used to be something and we're becoming something else? Well, what are we becoming? And in a perfect world, I would go find a dozen or more places in Newfoundland and Labrador that are paving a way forward, that are different than what's behind it. And for a lot of Newfoundland and Labrador, that means, what happened since the cod moratorium. Right, but of course, Fogo Island has had 50 cod moratoriums. I mean, they've reinvented themselves and realigned themselves and reorganized themselves like dozens and dozens of times, successfully. And, whether it was forming a co-op long before anyone else did it, or amalgamating all the communities before anyone else thought of it, or Zeta and so many others on Fogo Island have always seemed to lead the way in forward thinking, and so that's, I figure, would be a great spot to start if we're talking about, highlighting a few of the places in the province that have looked forward and see a bright future.
Yeah. No, so well put. We've got, I think Treva is on the line from St. John's. Hello.
Hi.
Hi,
how you doing?
Good. I just wanted to concur with Alan on the airport in Gander.
Yeah.
For sure, right? It's exactly as you said, right?
It is
it's
like
a timepiece.
It is it's so cool. It's like a movie set. And I remember my little fella, he was 18 or 17 or whatever, and I told him that one of the places we were stopping was an airport. And he said, "Are we flying somewhere?" And I was like, "No." He said, "Why are we going to an airport if we're not flying somewhere?" And I was like, "Buddy, you got to come check this out." And it's so interesting. And as you say, it's like a time capsule, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I, the old Newfoundland and new Newfoundland. I'm not sure what the shift was, but there has been one. I'm originally from Toronto, and the beach. If you're really from the beaches, you call it the beach, not beaches.
Oh, interesting. And where do you live now?
And here in St. John's.
St. John's.
Yeah. I've been here over 40 years, right? This is my adopted home.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Well, good to have you.
And, yeah. I was afraid to open my mouth when I came here, right? Because I thought Newfoundland and Labradorians hated mainlanders, right?
Yeah.
So.
And like, and there you were, welcomed with open arms, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, fabulous. Thanks for calling today.
The cop on the corner at Duckworth, there was still a policeman there to direct traffic.
I remember that.
Yeah. Well, I started working in St. John's in 1985, I guess, when I started working at the Newfoundland Museum. And I'm pretty sure he was still there then.
Yeah.
Up and down the hill.
Yeah.
Someone will correct me if I'm wrong. Thanks for calling in today. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Cheers. Yeah, I remember the police officer.
Oh, God, yes.
Because, you were at the Murray premises, right?
I worked at the Murray premises first, but then I worked on Duckworth Street and I went back and forth between both.
Right on.
And then, of course, the whole thing moved up to the rooms after I left there.
I love the fact that there's a consistent smell when you're in the Murray premises.
Oh, man.
If you're like,
and it's summer. It's like...
Yeah, and it's always been there.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
It's kind of, it's one of the, I did, my dad used to do maintenance there, so I did maintenance one summer as and we ripped the carpet out before the hotel went in, we were ripping out the old carpet upstairs in there, and there was a lot of dust in that carpet.
No, I started work. One of the greatest bits of luck in a very lucky life was I ended up getting a job working for the Newfoundland Museum in 1985. I turned 16 in May of 1985, and I got a summer job working as a tour guide at the Newfoundland Museum in the Murray premises. And man, I loved it. I loved it. And like I talk about like Lansing Meadows, and I talk about Red Bay, and a couple other places in this book that were like, I talked about those places at the Newfoundland Museum for almost a decade, right? But I had never been to them.
No.
So going to Red Bay, Labrador, or going to Lansing Meadows for me, as I talk about in this book, was like going to Madison Square Garden or something. Like I couldn't wait to walk along the in between the digs and stuff in Lansing Meadows. It was like fantastic.
To put your foot on the ground that where Vikings once stood, right?
It's yeah, I love it.
Gail Malone is on the line from St. John's. Hi, Gail.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Hi, Gail.
I hope I don't sound too echoey. I'm in my car.
No, it's all good.
When I retired in 2000, many years ago, one of my first big trips was on a river cruise. And as we left Budapest, I was stood by an American on the top of the ship, and he said, "Now, where are you from?" Because most of the other passengers were American. And he said, I said, "I'm from Newfoundland." And his face lit up. And he said, "I love great big fish."
Fantastic.
And we started to talk about your music. And I think at that time, Alan, you had just released a new album.
Yeah.
And he was so enthusiastic. And the other thing I found about that trip was at one night we were at a dinner, and we were the only two Newfoundlanders at the table, and someone asked where we're from. And we said, we're the place where all the planes landed during 9/11. Yeah. And the reaction we got from all the Americans was incredible, because they all said, "Oh, thank you so much." And they really, it made such a connection with the American passengers that it was very heartwarming, I must say.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the reasons.
I always remember this guy's face lighting up when I said I was from Newfoundland, and he said, "I love great big fish."
Well, like I said earlier in the broadcast, it was like, for better or for worse, we kind of realized early that we would be, or could be, and might likely be, people's first impression of the province, and so we always took that, fairly seriously, and it's also that whole story of like why I wanted to include Gander in this book was like as a place that people should probably know about,
Yeah.
And but I always loved it.
I'll always remember Gander because as a child we were taken there because it had the first escalator we had in Newfoundland.
Yeah.
That
so
was fun
good.
too.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for the call, Gail.
Thank you very much, and enjoy your show.
Have a great day.
And we got David.
You too.
David sent us an email. I probably have only seen about 20% of this province since I moved here in 2014. So much to see, as Mr. Doyle points out. This place is huge. Love to get some ideas of where to go next. And yeah, as we've been marching through, I mean, there's so many, like you said, like from Port Rexton, Ponte Vista area. I love how you mentioned, Lewisport and the marina, because the folks at Lewisport, like, very proud of that marina and are trying to
It should be.
build
It's very
build it
cool.
out more too. It is really cool. It's gorgeous.
Lewisport is one of the places in Newfoundland and Labrador that it's even sort of shocking if you're from Newfoundland and Labrador.
Yeah.
Like you go into it and you go like, wow, this is not quite like I my joke about Lewisport was like, and also Twillingate especially, about what's like, I think when you're driving around on the roads, you look up at the boats.
Yeah.
Like, how is this possible? I feel like I'm looking up at a boat, and like I feel like the water is above me. And Lewisport, that whole zone is so spectacular and beautiful, and Twillingate especially going, leading out to Fogo and the whole Fogo, Twillingate, Morton Tower. There, that what I like about that part of Newfoundland is that driving around in a car kind of doesn't make any sense. For Bonavista, Vista, for example, to be where it is, right? And then if you look at Bonavista, Vista, then Fogo, then Twillingate, and you're like, wait, now for like a sailing boat, this makes total sense.
I love the bit about the distance from Ireland too that you put in it.
Yeah.
I can't remember the distance.
I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but like the whole notion that Cape Spear is the most easterly place, and by definition it surely is. But really, if you want to draw a line from the westernmost community where people have lived in Europe, you'd be on the west coast of Ireland somewhere, and you draw a line to a community where people actually lived in Newfoundland and Labrador, and you don't end up in Cape Spear. You end up on the on the eastern side of Fogo Island.
Right, which is like I didn't know that. I was reading. I was like, oh wow, and then like stuff makes a different type of sense.
Yeah,
right. Imagine that stats and numbers and stuff can make sense if you actually look at it.
Yeah.
We got let me see, another email from came in. I was at the Q taping on Saturday. What a plethora of talent that comes out of Newfoundland culture. With talk about Canada entering Eurovision, I can't help but think that Great Big Sea back in the day could have won it hands down. Janine Inkpen.
I tell you, I would have loved to have done it. I'll do it now anytime.
So cool.
The Eurovision thing, it was great fun. I understand Canada is going to enter in there. It's fabulous. But the Q taping was a great thing on Saturday night, and that whole thing will air shortly, I assume, on the national CBC. But what's cool about it, like we said earlier, is that everybody's there to support Tom, and we still feel like when there's an opportunity for us to remind the country that we got a lot going on out here, we all jump at it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a charming thing. Like I always say, like one of the cool things about visiting Newfoundland and Labrador is that almost everybody here is invested in you having a good time.
Yeah.
We loves for someone to come, and we are heartbroken if they come and didn't like it.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Like like there's lots of places that don't care.
No.
If you come and like it or not, but we do.
Yeah.
And that shines through in so many ways.
100%. It's the thing of like, even with the weather, community, the weather, but it's just like, no, but have you checked out this place? Did you go here? Or do you know that? Or go talk to this person at this place, and they guarantee you're going to like it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I talk about in the book, and that I talk about anecdotally all the time when people talk about Newfoundland being far away, for example, there was a time in my younger life when I would try to downplay that, and I would say like, no, it's not that far away. I can get a flight. And now I'm like, yeah, it's far from everything.
Yeah.
And that's good.
Yeah, and there's a reason why you're doing it.
And people say, well, the weather's not that good. And I go, no, it isn't. It's often cold and windy and wet, and it's fabulous. And you should come check that.
Well, and some people actually, like when you talk about fog, other people don't get to experience it. And when you come here, and it's like, I think of like living now, moving to Kitty Vitty, and I'm just like, I think I live in one of the foggiest places on the planet. And that is actually special. Yeah. Right? And you can see the fog monster dancing all summer long.
I love the fog.
Right? Oh, the feeling of it. It's great for your skin, too.
Yeah, I don't like, I mean, and I think, with the ever rising temperatures, especially in the urban parts of the world, places like, a foggy a foggy day of 12 degrees in July is going to be quite popular.
Yeah, no, yes. I mean, if you're talking about monetizing some stuff of what people want to visit, yes, exactly. I'm just thinking now going through, we've talked about, St. Pierre, sorry, Saint Pierre.
Saint Pierre. Tricky one. I wasn't sure whether or not I should include Saint Pierre.
I love that you did.
Because, of course, it's not part of the Smiling Land, but it is certainly a possible part of a Smiling Land experience. And
Smiling Land adjacent.
there you go. In the spirit of, what are the weirdest things about wonderful Newfoundland and Labrador? And by weird, I mean different and interesting and wonderfully odd, right? One of the weirdest things is that we have France right next to us.
That's our ticket into Eurovision right there. How have we not already been part of it?
Got into it. We should have
come on.
But it's like, it is so bizarre. Like that you can, part of your trip to Newfoundland, could be, a hike on the Skirwing Trail, but it also could be, you can dart over to France in an hour from the Burin Peninsula. And I wondered about whether or not I should include it in the book. And I'm glad I did as well, because again, in the spirit of painting a picture of this destination for a holiday or a trip or whatever, where you could explore vastly different things in one trip, St. Pierre really might be the final sort of tip of the hat. It's just one of the most bizarre situations that I've ever found myself in. Is that it's this, how I describe it to people. I said, it's not like France. It is France. Yeah. It's not like, it's like they do all the things over there that they do in France. And you'd think it would be like Marystown a little bit. It's not.
No.
And then on top of all that, of course, it has this absolutely bizarre bootlegging history. That's
Al Capone. There's Al Capone was there back in the day.
Wild. It's just it occupies this bizarre foothold of Europe in North America. Like, it's very odd.
And it touches on what you've talked from the Gander International Airport Lounge, where you've got like the ghosts of the Queen, Fidel Castro, Russian cosmonauts, you name it, Frank Sinatra, and then you look at Al Capone and also the European side of who's been through there over the years, and you're like, and all of this in this one spot in the North Atlantic.
Yeah, it's just so weird. Like it's like, I love that the more you talk about Newfoundland and Labrador, the more sort of odd and unique it becomes. And even for me, because, one of the things I pitched the publisher about this book was, follow me around Newfoundland and Labrador, because I knows everything about Newfoundland and Labrador, and then watch me discover I don't know very much about it at all. Like, and St. Pierre certainly is one of those things, isn't it, where it's just like completely unexpected.
Yeah.
It's completely unexpected. And there it is.
Waiting. We've got, look at the call sheet. All right, we're going to get through. We got 6 minutes left. We've got 2 calls. Karen is on the line from Logie Bay. Hello.
Hey, Karen.
Hi. How's it going?
Great.
Good.
I'll be quick because I know you're nearly at the end of the show. So I, too, was at the Q taping on Saturday night, and I had a blast. I'm still laughing at some of the antics. Yeah. But I was just, having done some travel around Newfoundland and myself, never to Labrador, which I have to get to. But it always strikes me whenever I go places, the different music, storytelling things that I find, and it's so wonderful because each place has its own culture and practice and things like that. But looking at that stage on Saturday night, like, what is it about this place? We're only 500,000 people. Yeah. Why is it that we turn out these fabulous world-class entertainers and comedians and actors and producers and writers and musicians? How is it that this can come from so small a place? Like, that's always what fascinates me. I wonder what your view of that is.
Me too. I mean, it fascinates me as well. I mean, I've heard lots of people, propose answers to that very good question. And, the one that makes the most sense to me is that one of the reasons we got good at singing and acting and telling stories and writing stuff and performing is because no one was coming to do it for us. We had to learn to do it ourselves, and if I travel a lot in the States, for example, and like, for example, traveling through any Midwestern part of the United States in Iowa or wherever you pick a place, all through the 1950s and 60s, every summer, Dean Martin or somebody got off a bus and performed in that town.
Yeah.
And so did Sammy Davis Jr., and so did all those people, the people they saw on television. Nobody came to Petty Harbor. We had to do it ourselves. I was born into the band in Petty Harbor. The Doyles were the band before I was born. They're the band now. They're going to be the band long after I'm gone. I guarantee you that. And so we had to do it ourselves, and if we wanted to have fun, we had to make it, and I think that makes sense to me. I'm sure it's not the total answer, but I love the notion that there was a necessity to us learning how to entertain ourselves, and so we did.
Great answer, and I hope it keeps on through the next generations and I think that's important. But you guys have certainly, you yourself and a bunch of other people have really sort of helped that, I think. So anyway, congratulations on the book. Can't wait to read it, and good luck with your tour.
Thanks for everything.
Thanks, Karen.
All right, take care.
All right, final caller for today out of Pooch Cove. I think it's Herbin's on the line. Hello?
Hi, how you doing? Thanks for taking my call. I know we're short of time, but a comment back on what Alan's comment in Norway. I lived in Norway for many years, worked in the offshore oil business, and one of the things that I'll always remember is that the offshore installation manager, which is the captain, said he would always hire Newfoundlanders because they have absolutely no concept of what bad weather is. They go out in anything, right? And the other thing I noticed is the land does something to us. It is a big part of us, but it's not just the land. It's the combination of the land and the people. Because we stood out. We for some reason we're funnier. We're more outgoing, and I think it's because of the land, and we're tough. We're tough people, but it takes generations to get tough. And the final one for you, Alan, I could pick a Newfoundlander out of the airport in London, Paris, Perth, Australia. Anyway, I don't know, but I could sense it. Can you?
Oh my God, yes. And especially traveling the world with this sort of with music and with Newfoundland patch on me sleeve like I've been doing. You get everywhere in the world we've been, I've found someone. I always tell the story about being in Krakow in Poland and having a fella come backstage and go, boys, it was awesome night, boys. See you later on. It was two guys from Shea Heights. It was fantastic.
Yeah. A final one for you is one of the things to do is to do a rig intake into Newfoundland. The last thing you do a month before is you bring over the Newfoundland workers. And as a leader, I was so proud of every one of them.
Fabulous.
It warmed my heart. I'm 70 years old, and I will remember the day the Newfoundlanders got off that bus. Because, buddy, things got a lot more interesting.
That away.
Okay, thanks. Great.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Your tour. Bye-bye.
See you.
That's awesome.
Lazarenko just did the draw for the book. Janine Inkpen, congratulations. We'll be in touch with you, and we'll be popping that book into the mail. 45 seconds. My great uncle wrote a short story, a few of them, about the Second World War. At the end of it, he stopped into Hong Kong and he goes into this little shop, and one of the owners was from Newfoundland. You're like everywhere.
Yeah.
Thanks for this, man.
Oh, thanks for having me on. Lovely to chat anytime, and I appreciate all the support for the book. And I'll be back in. I have a tour coming up in March, and I'm back in St. John's. We're starting the tour here. A couple of dates down at Jag are on sale now, and it's always fun to play and sing and dance at home.
How do you feel? I got a couple seconds left. The Jag space, I've heard it's
Fabulous.
great. Yeah,
Oh
the acoustics are supposed to be excellent.
It's the best concert venue in the country, instantly. Like, it's fabulous. I'm doing a couple of nights there in the last few days of February, and I can't wait.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, folks, that is it for today's show. Thoughts for us, The Signal at cbc.ca. Tomorrow, different day, different topic. We are talking about food prices. It seems like every other day you go to the grocery store, the prices keep climbing. We're digging into why that is. We've got folks with thoughts. We've got an economist lined up, and we're also going to check in with some folks who are in the food selling business to talk about what they've been going through. Don't miss the show tomorrow, only on The Signal. Cheers.